It is a bloody day in crypto as the markets are selling off with a lot of uncertainty out there. We'll be discussing that, the latest in TradFi, the jobs numbers, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps.
I'm having like a terrible connection right now, so I don't know if anything's happening.
Me too. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's been like on and off. Like you were lagging for me, so yeah. Sorry, man.
Great.
Internet just doesn't want us to tell the truth.
I think it might be a StreamYard thing because I was getting the little icon in the top corner of StreamYard here for anyone watching. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Welcome to Money Never Sleeps. Thank you for joining us today. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Nothing Kevin or I say is financial advice, yada, yada, yada. Do your own research for making any buys or sells. Kev, you see a lot of red in crypto today. Bitcoin down just over $94,000. When we talked last on Monday, it was at about 102. So that is quite the fall off. How are you doing today? How are you kind of digesting the latest that is going on in the markets?
Yeah, the Bitcoin thing was the thing that we really talked about. We said it right before the end of the show. We need to see how the next day or so closes because this could be a complete fake out. Seems like it kind of was for the time being. Some people are already saying this is the local bottom because it bounced off of 92.5 or so. We got to wait to see for the next few days what happens once again. I know that's not a great answer, but I think what a lot of people are really hoping for is that we get one break in one direction. Sometimes you don't get that, and you get the really bad sideways chop. There are things, though, that we aren't getting sideways chop with, and they're kind of concerning me. And, the VIX is probably the one that tells me that we're getting close to a point of no return in the markets. We're seeing a lot of red, seeing a lot of volatility back and forth in a lot of sectors of this market. And, just with timing and everything that's happening in the world, we're seeing, Trudeau step down. We got Trump coming into office in 12 days or so. There's going to be a lot of volatility picking up. I think that's the main thing that I'm looking at right now. Like I said, I keep saying it's going to be fun because I think we're going to see rapid movement and you're going to see a lot of people on either the right or wrong side. But that's what everyone's kind of waiting for. I just don't think it's going to happen until we get to that point. So right now I'm taking it with a grain of salt, just looking at things as they come. But it's not great in the famous words that I used to say 50 times an episode back in the day.
Yeah, we see the bond market once again sending up some red flags. Longer duration bonds have been on an absolute tear. If you look at the 30-year, which I know no one wants to buy 30-year bonds, but from about a month ago until now, they've risen from 4.3 to almost it went over 4.95 earlier. The 20-year hit 5 earlier today. It is a really, really disconcerting time out there. We have a lot of geopolitical uncertainty. I guess Trump wants to invade Greenland, so that's fun.
Dude,
Canada's become a state. All of this is just people got really excited about Trump and the proposition of the benefits with crypto, but people
forgot
don't
about this aspect of them.
They forgot about the volatility of anything. If you weren't around in the markets back in his first term, the guy would send out a tweet first thing in the morning while taking a shit, and the market would dump 3%. So if you want the good with crypto, you better get ready for the increased volatility because he's going to say some wild shit, and the markets do not like uncertainty, especially in crypto when we have more and more TradFi money coming in. They are not, if the people who live on crypto Twitter, if you're going to really succeed well in this cycle, maybe step outside your bubble a little bit and get some different perspectives because the meme coin run is not going to last forever. You're going to need to rotate those profits, take profits and rotate them at some point. And kind of seeing different perspectives, I think, is important right now. And so if you're hoping for your strategic Bitcoin reserve and Trump pumping crypto, well, then you're going to also have to deal with this added volatility to an already volatile market.
Dude, it's so insane. Like, obviously, strategically, like thinking about this in the coming century or so, it makes sense why the U.S. would want that access to the Arctic, right? It's just something that Canada can't defend necessarily, and we know if global warming is happening to the point where you're going to start seeing those ice caps melt, then you're kissing Russia right on the other side of that the Arctic Sea. So I understand why Trump might be making these moves, but I also think that more or less is that this guy kind of knows that this market's shot, more or less. So saying a lot of this crazy stuff might maybe break it under Biden before he even gets in there. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump were to do something like that too, right? Because at this point, it doesn't necessarily matter who takes the blame. It's coming either way. Like, I think the VIX has given us a really good indication of that. The bond erosion. I mean, you brought up I almost said shitcoin, but I meant fart coin and all these other meme coins. We used to call them shitcoin. There probably is a shitcoin out there right now.
Fart coin, I'm calling the top on fart coin. Only reason being, I don't know if you ever listened to the show Pardon My Take. I listened to Pardon My Take. They mentioned fart coin on today's episode, and those guys are notorious top signals, whether it's in crypto, NFTs, meme like Dogecoin. Like they are like when they start talking about it on their show, it is when the top is in, and then it's time to get the fuck out.
I take your word for it, man, 100%. Again, not financial advice, but usually when you get those top signals, it's when everyone's talking about it. And there's always the same actors in the spaces, whether it's Jim Cramer or these guys, who just, as soon as they mention something, it's like the kiss of death for the market cap of some of these stocks and these crypto, assets. But the funny thing is right now, is everyone who's excited about Bitcoin and Trump, you have to understand that crypto will not go up if the banks are eating shit, right? That's your token to liquidity. That's pretty much how you're going to get a lot of money into some of these market caps real quick. If the banks start eating shit, you're probably going to expect the entire crypto market to eat shit. And the reason I bring that up too is also the fact that the bond market continues to erode. The further that these yields go up, the unrealized losses that are mounting for some of these institutions are just astronomical. I think they've been in these positions, some of them for about 5 years now, right? I mean, 5 years in March since 2021 or 2020. So I would expect the banks to continue to eat shit. And it's that type of macro outlook you have to have as you watch things like the 10-year and 20 and 30 and everything pretty much just going up. And it's like, when does it stop? At some point this has to stop. Otherwise everyone loses everything.
Yeah, we don't want that. Okay. We got some jobs data today showing a little bit of weakening in the private sector as far as new hires go. Saw wages coming down a little bit also. Markets are closed tomorrow, so we have the final hour of the trading day. Like I said, markets closed tomorrow in honor of Jimmy Carter's passing and his funeral. Reopen on Friday after the jobs report. Latest expectations are kind of neutral to negative on that one. Like people expecting a number that isn't going to be good for rate cuts. We had Fed minutes come out earlier as well. The expectation there still being 1 to 2 cuts. A few of the Fed governors could see there being 3 potentially. So the odds of a cut in January don't look very good at this point. We'll see about throughout the rest of Q1. That's been kind of some of the main things these last few days. More jobs data. That's going to be the focus this week. Inflation next week. What does that mean for the Fed, at the end of this month in the first meeting under the Trump regime remains to be seen.
Yeah. And what we also have to keep in mind too with some of this data is that we have OPEX, the last OPEX before Trump comes into office. And the markets aren't necessarily reaction to data sometimes. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. I think they'll be more reactionary towards some of this data. That's, obviously some softening in the labor market. We're going to get some more inflation data next week, like you said. I think they're going to be more critical of that data once Trump comes into office. That's just, it just seems like that's the way it's been going since, 2022 on. A lot of this bad data that comes out, however, the markets continue to climb a little bit higher. If this is being the last OPEX, January 17th, I would anticipate that the market has a bit of a bounce here, even though it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense if we do get some bad data, right? But that's just the way the markets are. And we have to see how liquidity is holding up. But tomorrow being closed, for the market. Maybe that this is kind of like the sign that it's going to start rallying from Friday on. Who knows? But I definitely think that that's kind of going to be the case until we get to the Trump presidency. And the funny thing is, OPEX on January 17th is the last day of trading under the Joe Biden presidency. I'm not talking about crypto, but for the U.S. stock market, it's the last day under Joe Biden. And the 20th, markets are closed once again for MLK Day, which is also the inauguration. And then the 21st is when they reopen again. So if I were to assume what's going to happen, it's probably going to be a little bit of a bounce here. And then when Trump gets in, you might start to see some of that correction in TradFi.
All right. What else do we want to talk about? Anything, we've seen a lot of volatility with NVIDIA this week. The Consumer Electronic Showcase, is that what CES stands for? Going on in Vegas. They've been, once again, NVIDIA at the forefront of AI. They've shown a lot of interesting products there. The stock absolutely ripped up to 154. It has since cooled. The chart on this one is just so all over the place, just gaps on gaps on gaps. But it is just below 140 at the moment. So we're seeing, a lot of buy ratings still on NVIDIA, with many people expecting, 220 as a potential mark, as it's shown right there on the screen. Leroy, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
See you, man.
So what has kind of caught your, we didn't talk about Tesla the other day, and some of their numbers coming in under expectation, and the fall they saw, they got as high as 488, now down trading under 400. So that has been super volatile as well. Where do you think is worth looking at the moment in TradFi before we switch over to crypto?
Yeah, so let's just go over some of the stuff that's happening with the top 7 stocks once again. We'll finish with GameStop because I have an addiction. But looking at NVIDIA right here, I mean, yeah, it's just gapping up and down, up and down. You're seeing some moves to the downside. You don't want to lose this level at 133. About 133 is the key level we want to hold support on if we're bullish on NVIDIA. With OPEX happening next week, I wouldn't be surprised if this pushes up a lot higher. I hate saying that, but it's very possible that you could see the repos absolutely drain completely over the next 2 weeks or so. And where that money goes is into the equity market, and it maybe get some people out of their positions. Maybe a lot of people get really excited. They're in the money come January 17th for calls. I would not be surprised if that's the case. But if we're bearish on NVIDIA, then we want to probably see a retest of 133. And if it doesn't hold, probably going to break through that. I don't see that necessarily happening until towards the end of the month or even into February. Just seems like that's where we're heading. But this is a nasty candle that we got. I don't necessarily know if NVIDIA is doing extremely well. I think when you say that demand is outpacing supply, we really have to boil down what that demand is. I think Jensen Huang is, very good at saying that, we just can't keep these things on the shelves, and this thing defies the I don't know, what is it, the laws of physics or some shit like that. Like he's very almost like Trump, but not as boisterous as Trump when he sells the product that he's selling. I think that's something that the markets might have a problem with towards the end of Q1, but as of right now, with the money printer still going on, going to be having some fun, I think, with NVIDIA.
Hey, Julie, thanks for joining us. Yeah. The one thing that I found very interesting about what he had to say was with the new laptop, or the new computer they have coming out, the new personal computer. It's like 3,000, but it's going to be like, if you are involved in AI, which a lot of people are at this point, it's not a must-have, I'm going to say, but it's pretty damn close, just how powerful this thing is. And I think that is going to open up a whole other revenue stream for them that I think will, in the short term, provide another just big leg up for that stock. Like once they start rolling that thing out and it's on there and they can show it on earnings, I think that's going to be a huge for them. Now, the sustainability of that product in the short run, like if people are kind of tight on money, I think they're going to, it's going to be like some of the new Apple launches that are super expensive. Like it'll hit that early adopter and then maybe level off for a little bit. But I do think that if they are expanding beyond, the chips and adding putting their chips into their own products that they're also producing at a mass rate, like that's positive for them. So I'm excited to see what that one is. I am not happy with myself for the shares I sold last year, but you know what? We keep moving forward. Okay, we never beat ourselves for taking profit, and we just eyes on the prize and keep looking ahead for more opportunities. So let's look at Tesla, and then from there, unless you have anything else for TradFi, we can go into crypto.
Yeah, we'll just run through Tesla real quick. This one is probably in a regular correction. It went up higher than I expected, right? I expected it to. I mean, this is the whole history of Tesla. It went higher than it absolutely expected it to. I thought it was going to be a flat correction where it was going to be right across, broke above that. So we're probably expecting, I had this down at 63. You can move that a little bit higher now. We could look somewhere in the range of like maybe 110 to 138. So small adjustment there. It could still go a lot lower. Anything could happen, right? Maybe Elon Musk gets betrayed by Trump and Trump's like, no, we're only going to have gas cars in America from now on. Like something stupid could happen and the market's just absolutely, tank on Tesla. But I do think that we have gotten to a place where we're very close to the high if the high has not been put in already. Again, I think Q1 of this year is going to be very telling, February into March, how some of these things hold up if there is a larger market correction. But looking at this here on the daily, you keep putting down this little, it's like a bear flag. I mean, a bull flag here. Let's see if we can get it. Kind of, it's just a parallel channel. I wouldn't even say it's a bull flag, so to speak, but we're going to keep an eye on, see how this plays out into the next week. Could it go up to a little bit higher? Sure, it can go maybe to $500 a share or so. Could it also just kind of put in a lower high? That's also very likely. If we look at this on the monthly, though, extremely overbought. And the nasty thing is you got some really bad wicks up higher. So you see there's definitely some sellers in that range. Do I think we can get that high again this month? Based off this candle, doesn't seem likely. And if we're also looking at what's happened here, I mean, this is pretty much ABC, an extension in the C wave. I would expect 5 waves down, which again coincides with the ABC corrective pattern that we've kind of been watching since, 2022 when it started to come down. So that's going to be kind of the move right now for Tesla. See where it goes. I do think that there is a major move coming for it. I just don't necessarily think it's going to be to the upside. I think it's more in line with how the stochastics are on both the monthly and if we look at the weekly as well. Weekly rolling over and see where the EMAs are. The EMAs are extremely low on this one. So you could get a bit of a flash crash over the course of a few months that get us to, maybe 30% test, which would put us around 271. It's still, a pretty high level compared to where we were in 2022, 2023, right at the beginning of that month. Outside of that, gotta finish with GameStop before we get into crypto, because I think this is going to be the one that's going to take off in maybe Friday into next week. I think January 13th is going to be a very telling day when the market's open. You're already seeing major moves in some of these exchanges. The CHX is having a lot of buy orders coming in. We're talking about like $40 million worth of spot buying of stock. We're also seeing the net call premiums on a lot of these options just going absolutely astronomical. Now, there's some people that think we could have a pullback, a little pullback like we had in March or May of this year. I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen or not. And if it does, it seems like it happens and it's short-lived, maybe a week or so before the stock just rebounds absolutely. But, I think that this OPEX is probably going to be where we're going to see a bit of a breakout. Targets for this, north of $38, maybe close to like 48.57 if we do get that bit of a squeeze, which I do expect. How high could it go? 120 is a level that I'm keeping an eye on. If a little bit, I can't speak. If I have any position still and the price is at 120, would I sell it? Probably. I'm not going to try and get out at that level. I think that's going to be, like trying to catch a falling knife to the upside. Doesn't seem like it's going to work out well for me. So having limits and stop losses is going to be my play if I'm having spot. And then with calls, I'm just, being happy to take profit at any chance I can get, because we know how this stock has been performed in the past by, I guess, how Robinhood has kept it from going a lot higher. They take away the buy button, so all you can do is sell. There's a lot of funky things that could happen that really impact the price of the stock. But tomorrow is the date that Roaring Kitty's tweet is supposed to come to fruition, January 9th. Let's see if that happens. Again, my stock market is closed tomorrow, so I expect it more to be on Friday. But you might see some dark pool and, after hours trading kind of have some of that volatility.
You were asking about a short squeeze here on GME.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of the basis for I think Warren Kitty's talking about. There's a lot of stocks that are currently hidden or failed to deliver from some of these institutions. The big one was Credit Suisse, but we know that Credit Suisse is no more. So UBS is kind of holding all that and they're kind of responsible for it. So there's a good chance that a lot of people, mainly institutions and algorithms that see that people are still short and they have to provide some of those stocks or to cover some of those puts that they've had since, whatever debt that Credit Suisse had, they're going to have to cover those. And if they don't cover them at current levels, then they're going to have to cover them a lot higher, which is only going to push the price up. That's kind of what I expect. And that's why I'm in both spot and calls, because I expect, maybe this plays out a little bit longer than I want it to. But we also have to understand I'm bearish as shit on the entire market. So, anything could happen, change very quickly in this market. Outside of GameStop, that's the one that we're just going to watch tomorrow night and on Friday. Let's go to Bitcoin because that's the really fun one. Do you think, let's see if we can get this on. Yeah, there we go. All right. Do you think this is another opportunity where it's just going to bounce and it's going to try and go back above this trend line and maybe break to the upside? Or do you think that this is going to be the downward spiral towards like that 80,000 level?
God, can you move that line, that white line up there? Like, give it to me from the top of 102 or whatever it was or not the top, like the daily close.
Okay, shit, my bad.
Yeah, give me those daily closes because I think that is more what I'm looking at. Like if we can get,
what's that, like you said, like this?
Yeah. Like what?
Okay.
If we can't get back, obviously above that soon, I think we're probably heading to 80K.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the reason I had it more down somewhere like this is because we hadn't gotten this yet, and it was more like that, I feel, for a period of time. And we did break out of it. I don't even know where it was. Yeah, we broke out of this level of resistance, and then it came right back down. And that's what it did yesterday too, and today. Obviously, it's dumping still. It's about $3,000 down from the open. But you're getting saved a little bit by the 50 moving average, right? That's kind of being your level of support right here. Could it retest it again? Could we push up to like 102 again? Sure. But again, I think it's going to be lower and lower highs until we do have a move in either direction. I think it's more to the downside. And again, we've talked about this in the past where Bitcoin has this month after the post-halving year in January where it's just down significantly. And I think that's kind of what we're falling into right now. And usually by the end of the month, we get the low put in. So I'd expect probably, and again, it just lines up with how everything's going in the market with Trump being in office. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, right? The other thing too that's really interesting with GameStop and Bitcoin, last time GameStop had the short squeeze and then Bitcoin, how did that perform? GameStop took off. Bitcoin had a 78% pullback in the following weeks after GameStop hit the all-time high. Obviously, there's different circumstances that have happened there too. That was the COVID crash as well. So I don't necessarily know if there's going to be a black swan that big that pulls Bitcoin down that quick, but it's very possible still, and we just keep an eye on that. But I think that we have no support in this range right here down to about 76, 77. Also coincides with the daily 200. So we start losing this 50 moving average. I think it's not going to be much longer before we start seeing, the 200 being held. Maybe we bounce from there and then we get another push higher from that 200 moving average. I just don't necessarily think we're going to break above the 50 if we lose it once again. I think we'd be trading within these two ranges for a period of time until we get more clarity on which way the general market, meaning TradFi and crypto, decides to go. As of right now, this is kind of what I expected. Now, if we look at alts, this is the one that's going to be really fun because, again, everyone was saying that we're going to be we're in an alt market, or what is it? I don't even know what it's called, an altcoin rally.
Alt season.
That shows you how long I've been outside of crypto. Yeah, looking at XRP, I mean, it did the same thing, right? And this is one that's been performing amazing since Trump took office. There's pictures of Brad Garlinghouse and Trump, like buddy. It's getting rejected off this. We're seeing Solana, bit of that fake out right down. Looks like it's going to go to the 200. So Solana and Bitcoin, you might be mirroring each other. Lose the 50 moving average, you're going to come down to the 200 and see how that trades. this level of resistance might be level of resistance until you lose that 200 as well. So that's something we're going to keep an eye on as we move forward. But looking at ETH, man, I think we have our answer. What's going to happen, right? The altcoins are doing what Bitcoin will be doing probably in a few weeks or a few days. Who knows? But you're going to lose the 50. You're probably going to see if you can find some support on the 200. ETH, I'm sorry. I think ETH's going to be a great buy when it's time to buy. But this thing didn't even put in a new high. That's the sad thing. Solana did. ETH didn't.
Close. It didn't even come within like 20% of a new high.
I mean, kind of, right? No, not even fucking close.
Yeah, right?
I was looking at this from 2024. My bad. Yeah, not even close, man. Sorry, ETH.
Absolute. That's the real fart coin right there. Like just a wet fart is what this ETH chart is looking like. Jesus Christ almighty.
USDT dominance. Again, they haven't printed recently. USDC printed today, like 50 mil or something like that. I don't think that's chump change. I don't think that's going to change the market too much. But every time we've seen this bottom of this trend line, if this starts getting above here, closer to that 200 moving average on this time frame, you're probably going to see a lot of people selling crypto, and this might have marked the top of the entire crypto market, and we'd probably expect to find ourselves somewhere in the range, I don't know, 10, 11% or so at some point. That would mark the bottom of the market if USDT is still alive. It's interesting that it's actually bouncing back. Well, I guess it's not because the crypto market is selling off, but I was going to say because people aren't necessarily using USDT in I think Europe now, right? They blocked it in some jurisdictions. Yep. I think that's going to be the move in 2025 as well for the US. There's going to be some other coin that's going to probably dethrone it, more of an American-backed, stable coin with regulations. But if I'm going to take this chart in this history as what happens, this has been the top of the market every time you've been down here, and this one overextended. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one maybe even overextends on this side, and then maybe this chart doesn't work anymore in the future. But outside of that, I think the alt market is telling us what Bitcoin's going to do. 50 and the 200 are the key ones to watch. Before I wrap up, I do want to show one thing that's really interesting, and that's the VIX. This thing broke out faster than I expected, and that kind of concerns me because I think it's telling us that the markets are going to pull back at some point, again, after the 20th, so the 21st and on, which also was the kind of the what I did back here. It was 12 days from the breakouts until we got the pump there for the VIX, and it was the same thing in July into August when we had this major move to the upside. It was about 12 days. So this was supposed to break out today, but it broke out yesterday. And that tells me that given what's happened in OPEX and what I expect, I think we're going to retest this bottom trend line. And if it stays above it, then, 12 days from today or tomorrow, we should say we can expect some type of volatility spike. Just so happens it lines up with January 21st. So I don't know if the machine algorithms are just kind of making the markets and the volatility out there just kind of line up with these odd dates, but that week does not look fun for volatility post OPEX, and it's something that we're just going to keep an eye on because I don't know. I think that this is a very scary sign that it broke out faster than expected. Maybe people are front running it. Who knows? But this is going to be. Someone's going to be wrong and they're going to be dead wrong in this market. And I'm excited to see which side is going to end up winning because I don't think it's going to be anyone with some long calls or anything like that past the 21st.
Volatility is back for the foreseeable future. So don't get shaken out of the markets, okay? Like, have a long-term view here. Don't act emotionally, for the love of God. And keep joining us because we'll be back throughout this whole damn thing. We will not be here on Friday, though, however, unfortunately. But we appreciate all of you who joined us. Leroy, Julie, everyone else who's watching. Thank you so much. We do really do. It means a lot that you guys join us on our show. So hit that like button if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment. Yada, yada, yada. Thank you very much. I have been working very hard on the stash, so I appreciate the kind.
It is getting wider. It's kind of nice.
I can't decide if I want to try to get it going down a little bit more and get the cop look, or if I just want to see how
strongman.
Yeah, I could do that. That would be my Halloween costume this year. Grow it out, handlebar style, get the singlet, all that good stuff. All right,
exactly.
Enough about my Halloween costume here in January. Appreciate you guys as always. Stay safe in the markets, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.